Part 1. The silence of Saul, the Galactic Council, had long maintained its image as the guiding hand of civilized space. Composed of hundreds of species, the Council prided itself on peaceful cooperation, technological progress, and the inclusion of all advanced life. When their deep space listening arrays picked up the signals from Sol 3th, the Council had high hopes. Here was a rising species on a lush, violent planet, transmitting everything from music to war footage, sitcoms to political debates. Humanity's early signals were crude but persistent. Their languages were deciphered within a century. Their psychology, while alien, is at least understandable, curious, competitive, fearless. The Council watched as humans moved from their first satellites to Mars missions, then to their first crude fusion engines. The rise was fast. Too fast. That speed made some within the Council uneasy. The Council sent automated greetings, translation packages, even physical envoys loaded with knowledge and peace offerings. None returned. All probes sent beyond Pluto vanished, no wreckage. No pings, no last transmissions. As Earth went quiet, Council debate grew louder. Was humanity ignoring them, or were they gone? The silence from Sol stretched for decades. No signals, no comms, no contact. The galaxy moved on. Some theorized that humanity had destroyed itself in a nuclear war or succumbed to a technological collapse. Others claimed Earth had turned inward, choosing isolationism over galactic unity. A few fringe voices warned that maybe, just maybe, Earth had gone dark on purpose. But the Council didn't listen to doomsayers. Over the next 100 years, Earth faded into obscurity. Its profile remained in Council archives, marked unresponsive, non-hostile. It was still a point of scientific curiosity, but no longer seen as relevant. Its Deathworld classification was mostly ignored, and the stories of the disappeared. Probes became more myth than fact. Then the Zarn Dominion rose. They weren't interested in treaties. The Zarn didn't talk. They conquered. A massive insectoid empire with no centralized leadership and a hive-like strategy. The Zarn carved through Council space like a blade through silk. Dozens of member species fell. The Council's military built for peacekeeping, not war, crumbled. Cries for help echoed across the galaxy, bouncing between frightened ambassadors and overworked defense networks. Worlds burned. Refugees fled toward the core systems. The Council, disorganized and in panic, begged for volunteers, allies, anyone. Then something strange happened. Council outposts near the Old Sol sector went offline, not from an attack, but from a system override. All data was erased and replaced with a single chilling broadcast, spoken in perfect galactic standard, emotionless and precise. This is Sol Command. Stand down. Reinforcements inbound. The message played for exactly 60 minutes before, vanishing from every system. At first, Council leaders thought it was a hoax maybe. Desperate prank from some pirate warlord trying to bluff their way into relevance. But when multiple outposts reported the exact same override, panic turned to confusion. Recon ships were dispatched toward Sol to investigate the message. They found nothing. No ships. No satellites. Not even the broken remnants of those earlier probes. Just the icy silence of deep space, and a sense that something vast and unseen was watching. Council debates ignited again. Some called it a trick. Others feared it was a warning. But the most unsettling question began to take root in every chamber, every hall, every mind. Had Earth been preparing all this time? The idea felt absurd. But it wouldn't go away. As more sectors fell to the Zarn, the Council braced for collapse. Systems were being cut off. Trade routes vanished. Even Council homeworlds were under siege. The end of galactic civilization seemed certain. And then everything changed. Without fanfare, without warning, Earth acted. A fleet of Terran warship ships no one had seen before dropped into real space at the edge of the Xtari Nebula, a key battlefront. 137 vessels, bearing no Council insignia, but each marked with the ancient blue and white crest of Earth. They didn't send greetings. They sent a single message. Evacuation routes will be secured. Enemy fleets will be dismantled. Interference will be considered an act of aggression. And then, before the Council could even decide how to respond, the human ships moved. Fast, precise, brutal. They wiped out a Zarn fleet 6 times their number in less than 30 minutes, cleanly, with no casualties, no damage, no fanfare. Then they disappeared into FTL again. The Council sat frozen. Their worst fear was no longer that Earth had gone extinct. It was that Earth had finally arrived. Part 2. When the sky turned black, the destruction of the Zarn fleet near the Extari Nebula had sent shockwaves through the Galactic Council. 137 Terran Warships ships never before seen in any Council registry had appeared from the void, annihilated an overwhelming enemy force, and vanished just as quickly. The footage, captured by fleeing civilian vessels, was reviewed over and over, frame by frame, ship by ship, and still the Council could not make sense of it. Human ships did not match known designs. Their hulls seemed to absorb light. They emitted no known energy signature, used no known propulsion method, and did not communicate in any standard format. Some didn't even appear on sensors until they were already firing. The fleet's arrival had been like a phantom rising from the depths of the void, but its firepower was real, lethally, terrifyingly real. In desperation, the Council scrambled to locate other human deployments. Over the next several days, they did. Terran fleets began appearing in multiple systems. Under siege. Some arrived to escort refugee convoys. Others wiped out entrenched Zarn forces with surgical precision. Again, no greetings, no speeches. Just cold, efficient action. Humanity had remained silent for over a century. Now they were speaking through. Overwhelming force, and still no one knew why. No human representatives came forward. No diplomats contacted the Council. The only communication came from automated Terran broadcasts declaring safe zones, evacuation corridors, and system lockdowns. These messages, delivered in unaccented galactic standard, ended with the same line every time: interference will be considered an act of aggression. Panic set in among the Council's inner circle. Was Earth staging a coup? Were they positioning themselves to replace the Council altogether? Or was this something else, something worse? The answer came unexpectedly. From above, it was over. Varaxel Prime, the central hub of the Galactic Council and seat of its power. That the full scope of Earth's resurgence became clear. On what began as a normal day, the sky suddenly went dark. Not from weather, not from orbital traffic, from ships, thousands of them, massive, angular Terran warships emerged from FTL simultaneously, an impossibility by conventional Council science. The sky was blotted out, sensors overloaded. Emergency protocols triggered planet-wide evacuations, only to find that all orbital stations had been quietly shut down by precision Terran code injections. They weren't destroyed, just disabled, peacefully, surgically. The Vraxilian day turned. Tonight, the stars disappeared behind an iron curtain. And then, finally, the humans spoke. A single voice echoed across every communication channel, from civilian comms to encrypted military lines. "This is Admiral Ray Tanaka of Earth's Unified Defense Network. We're here to end this war. Stand down or be removed." There was no ceremony, no threat. Just certainty. In the Council chambers, chaos erupted. Ambassadors of every species screamed over one another. The Varaxilian Chancellor demanded immediate communication. The Gorgari delegation activated planetary defenses, only to find them already disabled. The air thickened with fear. Had Earth built this in secret? How had they gone from primitive spacefares to fielding a multi-thousand-ship armada capable of suppressing entire sectors? Admiral Tanaka did not land. She did not attend any meetings. Instead, a hard-light projection of her materialized in the Council chamber, perfectly rendered. It's a motionless figure in a matte black uniform, standing as calmly as if she were speaking to subordinates. Her words were blunt. "We're not here to negotiate. You failed. You debated for years while your sectors burned. We warned you once. You ignored us. We trespassed in our system. We said nothing. You sent spies and envoys. None returned. Still, we remained silent. It's her. Eyes moved slowly across the room. Now you remember us? Now you call for help? Fine, we will help. But understand this. This does not serve the Council. Earth protects life. That is our only purpose now. Several ambassadors protested, shouting about sovereignty, diplomacy, and treaties. The Grolic representative demanded Earth submit their fleet to Council oversight. Admiral Tanaka blinked once. Treaties mean nothing when your planets are ash. The chamber fell silent. With that, the projection vanished, and above Raxel Prime, the human fleet waited silent and still, a wall of black steel blocking out the sky, holding back the end of the galaxy with a quiet patience that unnerved even the most ancient species. The Council had spent centuries defining power through debate, vote, and policy. Now, Earth had redefined it with one gesture, presence. No one could deny it now. Earth had never been gone. Earth had never been weak. They had simply been watching and preparing. Part 3. The meeting that wasn't a meeting inside the sprawling dome of the Galactic Council's central chamber. Panic clung to the air like smoke. The day Earth's armada blotted out the skies of Raxel Prime was a turning point, not only in the war against the Zarn, but in galactic history itself. The Council had summoned an emergency session, desperate to regain control of the narrative. Species that once mocked Earth as an irrelevant death world were now tripping over themselves to understand its sudden and overwhelming return. Some saw hope, others a threat. All agreed on one thing. Earth was no longer a footnote. They were a force. But how does one negotiate with a force that does not knock on the enters? Just minutes after the session began, the lights in the chamber dimmed. Security systems glitched. Then, without ceremony, a figure appeared in the center of the hall, projected in perfect clarity. Admiral Rei Tanaka of Earth. Her image stood tall and calm. Dressed in Earth's Unified Defense Network uniform, marked only by a simple silver insignia on her chest. Sole Command. Her posture was that of someone not seeking approval or permission, but delivering fact. I am not here to negotiate, Tanaka said plainly. This is not a meeting. This is a courtesy. A hush fell. Even the normally volatile Zycar delegation sat frozen, their scales paling in unease. Tanaka's voice was smooth, without emotion, but layered with unshakable authority. You've asked where Earth has been? Why we ignored your messages? Why we refused your envoys? She looked around. The chamber, her projection locking eyes with dozens of species at once. You misunderstood our silence as absence. That was your mistake. A murmur rippled through the delegates. The Vraxilian Chancellor, struggling to maintain composure, rose. We welcomed your species with open arms. We extended peace. We sent aid. You vanished. Tanaka responded instantly. You sent probes into our system without consent. You monitored us, judged us. Then you debated our fate like we were a project, not a sovereign people. When your emissaries violated our borders, they were removed. Cleanly, without retaliation. That was your warning. The Gorgari ambassador, a creature of warlike instinct, slammed a clawed hand on the dais. You had no right to destroy those ships. That was aggression. We didn't blink. We didn't destroy them. We simply made sure they never left. You assumed destruction because that's what you would have done. The room went still. Then Tanaka continued, her tone sharpening. You mistook our restraint for weakness. While you squabbled and traded and congratulated yourselves on peace, we watched. We listened. And when the Zarn came, you did nothing. Earth is not here to join your council. Earth is not your ally. Earth is your intervention. A wave of indignation swept through the chamber. The Rathani hive mind's emissary, an ancient being with tendrils of bioluminescent light, spoke next. You threaten the council's authority. That is unacceptable. Admiral Tanaka turned her head slightly. Authority is earned through action, not claimed through ceremony. Her projection took a step forward, as though she were physically walking among them. You fear Earth now, not because we've hurt you, not because we've issued ultimatums, but because you've realized what we are, a species that learned to survive a death world, a species that mastered war not out of desire but necessity. We didn't evolve in comfort. We evolved in fire. Now that fire protects you? Silence followed. Not even a whisper passed through the grand hall. The weight of Tanaka's words crushed the normal rhythms of council politics. There were no votes, no debates, no counteroffers. For the first time in living memory, the council had been addressed not as rulers of the galaxy, but as witnesses to a changing era, Admiral Tanaka's final words were as much a verdict as they were a warning. We will end the Zarn, then we will leave. Keep your bureaucracy, keep your politics. But if you fail to defend life again, we won't ask next time. Her projection vanished. Above Vraxel Prime, the human fleet remained. Impossibly vast, unmoving, implacable, a silent shield that dared the universe to test its resolve. The chamber sat in stunned silence. Even the most arrogant species present couldn't shake the truth. Earth wasn't asking for a seat at the table. They had become the table, and in the power vacuum of a crumbling galaxy, the question no one dared say aloud grew louder in every mind. Had Earth just taken control without firing a shot? Part 4. The war, Earth, ended. Alone the moment Admiral Tanaka's projection vanished from the council chambers. Reality snapped into place. Earth was not posturing. They were not negotiating. They were already acting, and no one could stop them. In the following weeks, the war shifted in a way that few believed possible. What had once been a desperate scramble for survival became a carefully coordinated cleanup operationally, entirely by Earth's fleets. It became clear that the humans hadn't come to ask for permission. They'd come to fix a problem. The Zarn Dominion, long feared as the unstoppable swarm, began to break. The Zarn weren't used to losing. Strength had always been in numbers hive tactics, relentless charges, attrition through sheer volume against the Council's forces. It had worked brilliantly. Against humanity, it failed immediately. Terran war doctrine didn't fight like the Council's. It didn't waste time with showy maneuvers or avoid casualties for optics. Instead, Earth's fleet struck fast, hard, and without mercy. TAC-TICS were unpredictable, their weapons unknown. They used orbital drops to place commandos directly into hive command centers, sometimes in the middle of live fire zones. They transmitted false fleet signatures to bait ambushes, then erased entire Zarn flotillas in prepositioned kill zones. The Zarn adapted. Of course, Earth adapted faster. It wasn't just the military precision that stunned the galaxy, it was the coordination. Across thousands of light years, Earth's ships operated with a level of unity that defied normal communications latency. Entire warfronts moved like extensions of one mind. When Council analysts finally got access to fragments of Terran command code, the terrifying truth became clear. The entire human war effort was coordinated by artificial general intelligences, quantum-linked across the fleet. The Council had banned such intelligence centuries ago to dangerous, too independent Earth had perfected it, then unleashed it. Within 2 months, Earth's forces reclaimed more territory than the Council had in a year. Planets the Zarn had turned into strongholds were systematically liberated. Some were glassed from orbit when evacuation was impossible. Others saw Terran ground units descend with terrifying silence. Leaving behind order where chaos once reigned, Council species watched in awe and quiet horror. Earth's fleets rarely communicated with them directly. Instead, Terran command simply announced intentions, and the galaxy either cleared the way or risked becoming collateral. Yet for all the devastation Earth wrought upon the enemy, their actions towards civilians told a different story. Every Terran dreadnought housed not only weapons, but medical bays, hydroponic farms, and refugee housing. Millions were evacuated aboard warships that moved like cities. When Council supply chains collapsed, Terran ships dropped provisions on starving worlds. When Council hospitals overflowed, Terran AI surgeons performed operations for free, without rest. They asked for nothing. Not allegiance. Not compensation. Not thanks. They simply did what needed doing. This dichotomy, deadly precision in war, boundless compassion in peace, shattered the galaxy's perception of humanity.
Oh no.
No longer seen as reckless deathworlders or unpredictable anomalies, they became something far more unsettling. Guardians who didn't wait for permission. The Zarn, once ravenous and fearless, began retreating. Their hives fractured, their fleets scattered. For the first time, they fled not from overwhelming numbers, but from something they couldn't understand, because humans didn't seem to fight for power, conquest, or glory. They fought because someone had to. The war ended not with a treaty, but with silence. The last known Exarn world, a deep space breeding colony, was surrounded by Terran ships. There were no broadcasts, no surrender terms, just a black wall of ships forming a ring around the planet. After 72 hours, Earth transmitted one line to the Council, threat neutralized. No further explanation was offered, and then just as swiftly as they had arrived, Earth's fleets began to disperse, not to return home, but to remain in Council space. They didn't occupy territory. They didn't conquer. They simply stationed themselves along key routes, watching, when questioned. Their only response was, "We are here in case it happens again." Council members tried to reassert control. They demanded Earth submit to oversight, that they declare their operations, that they fall in line. No reply came. The Council, for all its grandeur and history, realized it was no longer the center of galactic order. It was a guest in a new age. Part 5. Stars remember the war was over. The once mighty Zarn dominion feared, ferocious and unrelenting, had been reduced to ashes and fragments. Their fleets were dismantled. Their worlds rendered uninhabitable. Their leadership, if it ever truly existed in a centralized form, had been wiped from existence. But Earth did not celebrate. There were no victory parades, no galas, no declarations of dominance. Terran vessels simply moved into quiet holding patterns, like sentinels refusing to rest. The galaxy waited for them to leave, to return to their mysterious home system and vanish once again into legend. They didn't. Instead, they stayed. The galaxy learned what it truly meant to live under the watch of Sol. Terran fleets dispersed across the sectors, not to conquer, not to police, but to stand guard. Each ship became a silent monument to what humanity had done and a warning of what they could do again. Planetary orbits that had once been war zones now held the silhouettes of massive human dreadnoughts. Their presence brought an eerie sense of security. Trade resumed. Refugees returned. Pirate factions disbanded without a shot fired. The stars were peaceful again, because Earth was watching, and the galaxy had changed. Children on distant worlds no longer dreamed of joining the Council Navy. They dreamed of catching a glimpse of a Terran warship. Songs were sung about the night fleet that came when the sky turned dark. Civilians across sectors passed around stories, many exaggerated, some terrifyingly accurate. They say, one Terran ship destroyed an entire Zarn swarm in a single blast. My cousin was on a refugee transport. They say the humans gave their own rations to the kids. Don't anger them. They don't talk. They just act. But it wasn't just the civilians who whispered. Council governments, too, found themselves shifting policies not out of alliance with Earth, but out of fear of provoking them. No official decree had been made. Earth had not declared themselves a galactic authority, but their fleets hovered above critical lanes and resource-rich systems. Gods with silent judgment. The Council tried diplomacy. Delegates were sent to Earth's outposts, requesting audience with the Terran High Command. They were received politely by emotionless AI interfaces. Human leadership did not speak directly. Not anymore. Instead, all queries were answered in neutral terms. The matter is noted. Earth will observe. This situation has been resolved. Stability has been restored. Do not escalate. That is Earth's only warning. Behind the silence was not apathy, but calculation. Earth had stepped beyond politics. They weren't interested in seats or titles. They didn't care for Ceremonial influence. They saw a galaxy that had nearly torn itself apart in debate, inaction, and protocol. And when action had been needed most, no one had stepped forward. So Earth had. And now, they remained not out of conquest, but because they knew better than most that peace was a fleeting thing. Many in the council hoped Earth would grow weary, that they would, in time, fade back into mystery. But Earth did not fade. Instead, their presence became part of daily life. Council patrols began coordinating with Terran fleets if Earth didn't answer. Their movements always seemed to predict trouble before anyone else. Medical crises were often answered by human hospital ships appearing from nowhere, treating entire populations before vanishing into FTL. Some began calling Earth's response network the Ghost, a invisible layer of defense and logistics. No one controlled, but everyone benefited from. Despite their power, Earth demanded nothing. They imposed no taxes, built no empires, installed no rulers. But if a warlord tried to rise, if a pirate faction grew bold, if a council faction threatened civilian worlds for resources, then Terran ships arrived, silently, efficiently, and left only stillness behind. Galactic culture shifted. Earth became mythologized, equal parts protector and threat, savior and specter. No species could quite decide if they were blessed or cursed to live under Earth's gaze. The Council, once the undisputed heart of civilization, had become a bureaucracy under observation, and Earth never explained their change, never spoke of the decades of silence, never revealed the reason behind their sudden ascension or unmatched technological power. They didn't need to, because the galaxy had already decided. Earth had seen what was coming long before anyone else. And while the others talked and argued and compromised, Earth had prepared in time. New generations were born. New conflicts rose and fell. But throughout it all, one truth remained unchanged. Whenever a child looked up at the sky and asked why the stars blinked strangely at night, their parent would lean close and whisper, "That's not a star, little one. That's a Terran ship. And it's making sure you sleep safe." 'Cause the galaxy would never forget the day Earth returned, and the stars remembered the shape of Terran steel.